How much longer will you allow others to dictate your mood, your boundaries, and even who you are? Every day we encounter them. People who test our patience, disrespect our boundaries, or drain our energy with acidic comments and subtle manipulations. They appear in our workplaces, family gatherings, and sometimes even among those we consider friends. Their words linger in our minds long after conversations end, and their actions leave us questioning our worth or sanity. The most painful truth is that most of our suffering doesn't come from their behavior itself, but from our unconscious responses to disrespect. We react instead of respond. We absorb toxicity instead of deflecting it. We internalize criticism that was never ours to carry. Today, I'll share 15 practical approaches based on Stoic wisdom that will help you emotionally shield yourself and preserve your energy without needing to fight back or justify yourself. These aren't complicated psychological techniques requiring years of therapy. They're straightforward principles you can implement immediately to reclaim your peace. 1. Don't stoop to their level. Seneca teaches us that responding with anger only equalizes us with our aggressor. When someone baits you with insults or provocations, they're often seeking an emotional reaction, proof that they can control your internal state. By matching their tone, volume, or hostility, you've already lost the exchange. Consider what happens when you respond to sarcasm with sarcasm, or to passive aggression with outright aggression. The conversation spirals downward, and you leave feeling depleted and regretful. You've handed over your emotional sovereignty to someone who didn't deserve such power. True control lies in responding as if their words haven't affected you, because in truth, they don't need to. When someone attempts to provoke you, pause before responding. Take a deep breath. Then respond with measured calmness that communicates, "I choose my reactions. You don't choose them for me." This doesn't mean being a doormat. Rather, it means responding from a place of self-possession instead of emotional reactivity. Say what needs to be said clearly and directly, without emotional charge, then disengage. You'll find that this calm response often disarms toxic people who thrive on emotional chaos. 2. Establish clear boundaries and enforce them. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that we have the power to decide what we will tolerate. Many of us mistakenly believe that setting boundaries means controlling others' behavior. It doesn't. Boundaries simply communicate what you will or won't permit in your presence. A boundary isn't a request. It's a statement about yourself. I don't discuss politics at family gatherings. I won't accept being spoken to in that tone. I'm not available for conversations that involve gossip about colleagues. The power of boundaries lies not just in stating them, but in consistently enforcing them. When someone crosses a line you've established, you must be willing to implement consequences, walking away, ending the conversation, or limiting future interactions. Remember that you don't need lengthy justifications for your boundaries. Saying, "This doesn't work for me," or "This conversation ends here," carries more weight than 1,000 explanations. Toxic people are experts at debating your reasoning, but they cannot argue with your right to set standards for how you're treated. 3. Mind your body language. Epictetus emphasizes that even your body communicates your values. While toxic people may not respect your verbal boundaries, they instinctively read and respond to your physical presence. When you stand with slumped shoulders, avoid eye contact, or fidget nervously, you broadcast vulnerability. Consciously adjust your posture. Stand or sit straight, maintain appropriate eye contact, and keep your movements deliberate and unhurried. These subtle shifts signal that you are not available to be diminished. Practice occupying your space unapologetically. Don't make yourself smaller to accommodate someone else's comfort, especially when they've shown disregard for yours. A calm, steady voice and measured breathing further reinforce your self-possession. Adopt a serene but firm presence. This alone repels much toxicity, as those looking for easy targets will recognize that manipulating you will require more effort than they're willing to invest. 4. Distance yourself. Without guilt. Stoic philosophy reminds us that we have no obligation to maintain relationships that harm us. Many of us struggle with distancing ourselves from toxic individuals, particularly family members or long-term connections, because we've been conditioned to believe that loyalty means enduring mistreatment. Creating distance isn't selfish, it's a profound act of wisdom. When you recognize that someone consistently undermines your well-being, reducing or eliminating contact is often the most compassionate choice for everyone involved. You avoid the frustration of repeated boundary violations, and they lose an audience for their behavior. This distance needn't be dramatic or announced. Simply being less available, declining certain invitations, or limiting the duration and frequency of interactions can significantly reduce your exposure to toxicity. When you do this without lengthy explanations or emotional declarations, you maintain your dignity while clearly communicating that your energy isn't freely available to those who misuse it. Remember that distance can be emotional as well as physical. Learning to mentally detach from someone's opinions and judgments, to hear their words without absorbing them, creates protective space even when physical separation isn't possible. 5. Surround yourself with those who value you. "Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future," reflects the Stoic principle that our associations shape our character and experiences. The quality of your inner circle directly influences your ability to maintain healthy boundaries with difficult people. When you regularly interact with those who respect and appreciate you, you strengthen your internal barometer for acceptable treatment. You become more sensitive to disrespect because it contrasts sharply with your normal experiences. This heightened awareness helps you identify toxic dynamics earlier, before they've taken an emotional toll. Additionally, supportive relationships provide the emotional resilience needed to handle difficult encounters. When you feel secure in your worth because it's regularly affirmed by those you trust, the opinions and actions of toxic individuals carry less weight. Deliberately cultivate relationships that nurture your integrity rather than questioning it. Seek connections with people who celebrate your boundaries rather than challenging them, who communicate directly rather than manipulatively, and who contribute to your energy rather than depleting it. 6. Practice selective attention. The Stoics understood that our attention is perhaps our most valuable resource. What we focus on expands in our experience. When dealing with toxic people, consciously direct your attention away from their provocations and toward what serves your well-being. When someone makes a cutting remark, you have choices about where to place your focus. You can dwell on the comment, analyze their intentions, formulate the perfect comeback. Or you can acknowledge the comment without engaging with it, then redirect your attention to something constructive. This isn't about pretending negative interactions don't happen. Rather, it's about refusing to give them more mental real estate than they deserve. Practice noticing when your thoughts circle back to upsetting encounters, then gently guiding your focus elsewhere. In conversation with difficult people, selectively engage with neutral or positive aspects of the discussion. When toxicity emerges, neither challenge nor reward it with your attention. This practice of mindful attention management allows you to participate in necessary interactions without absorbing their negativity. 7. Recognize manipulation tactics. Epictetus advised becoming a student of human behavior. Understanding common manipulation tactics doesn't make you cynical. It makes you discerning. Toxic individuals often rely on predictable strategies: guilt-tripping, gaslighting, shifting blame, playing the victim, or using backhanded compliments. When you can name these tactics in the moment, they lose much of their power over you. Instead of reacting emotionally to the content of what's being said, you can observe the pattern and think, this is gaslighting, or this person is trying to make me feel responsible for their emotions. This recognition creates crucial cognitive distance between you and the interaction. From this more objective stance, you can respond strategically rather than reactively. You might calmly name the behavior. "It seems like you're trying to make me responsible for how you feel," or simply disengage without explanation. Developing this awareness also helps you avoid unconsciously adopting manipulative behaviors yourself when under stress, an important consideration, as we sometimes mirror the very tactics we find most hurtful. 8. Maintain perspective. Through depersonalization, Marcus Aurelius practiced viewing difficult people as acting according to their nature, just as figs taste like figs. This perspective shift, seeing toxic behavior as a reflection of the other person's limitations rather than a statement about your worth, provides emotional protection during challenging interactions. When someone treats you disrespectfully, remind yourself, this behavior reveals their character, not my value. Their actions stem from their internal landscape, their insecurities, past experiences, and limited behavioral repertoire. Understanding this doesn't excuse their behavior, but it does help you avoid internalizing it. Practice viewing difficult interactions from a slight distance, as if observing a scene in which you're participating but not personally invested. Notice the patterns, the predictable responses, the underlying motivations, without judgment or emotional entanglement. This depersonalization allows you to respond more effectively because you're no longer defending your worth against perceived attacks. Instead, you're navigating a social dynamic with clarity and composure. 9. Speak little, listen strategically. Seneca advises that speech should be like a precious coin, compact, rounded, and weighty. When dealing with toxic individuals, verbose explanations and defensive responses often fuel further conflict. Instead, practice economical communication. Say only what's necessary in clear, direct terms. Listen not to respond, but to understand the dynamics at play. What is this person really seeking? Attention, control, validation. Recognition of this underlying need helps you avoid being drawn into unproductive exchanges. When provoked, try responding with brief, neutral statements or questions. That's an interesting perspective. I see it differently. Why do you ask? These responses acknowledge that you've heard the person without engaging with problematic content or offering personal information that could be used against you later. Strategic silence is particularly powerful. Many toxic interactions persist because we feel compelled to fill conversational voids or defend ourselves against accusations. Becoming comfortable with silence, allowing an awkward pause to hang in the air rather than rushing to smooth things over, shifts the dynamic significantly. 10. Prioritize recovery after exposure. Even with the best boundaries and strategies, interactions with toxic people can be draining. Stoics recognize the importance of restoration through practices that return us to our center. Develop personal rituals that help you release tension and recenter after difficult encounters. This might be as simple as a few minutes of deep breathing, a brief walk outdoors, writing in a journal, or connecting with a supportive friend. The specific practice matters less than the intentional transition it creates, allowing you to consciously release the residual effects of the interaction. Pay attention to physical sensations that signal you're carrying toxicity. Tension in your shoulders, a knot in your stomach, shallow breathing. These bodily cues offer valuable early warnings that someone's behavior is affecting you more deeply than you might realize. Make recovery non-negotiable. Just as you wouldn't consider skipping a shower after getting physically dirty, don't neglect emotional cleansing after exposure to toxic behavior. This consistent self-care reinforces an important message to yourself. Your well-being matters and deserves protection. By implementing these 10 approaches, you establish a robust emotional shield against toxic influences. This isn't about becoming hard or insensitive. It's about becoming discerning about what you allow to affect your inner state. As Epictetus reminds us, true freedom comes not from controlling others, but from mastering our responses to them. 11. Stop explaining your choices. Seneca would say that you are truly free when you stop living to please others. The constant need to justify your decisions to everyone around you is nothing short of begging for approval, a subtle form of self-imprisonment that toxic individuals quickly identify and exploit. When you habitually explain your reasoning, why you can't attend an event, why you chose a certain career path, why you prefer to spend your time in particular ways, you unconsciously signal that your choices require external validation to be legitimate. This creates an opening for toxic people to question, challenge, and undermine your decisions. Practice the liberating art of making statements without attaching explanations. I won't be attending. This doesn't work for me. I've decided to take a different approach. When pressed for reasons, try the revolutionary simplicity of because that's what I've chosen, or because this is what works best for me. These responses might feel uncomfortable at first. We've been conditioned to believe that unexplained choices appear rude or arbitrary. Yet what you'll discover is that most healthy individuals respect clear statements of preference or decision without demanding justification. Those who persist in questioning your unexplained choices are often revealing their belief that your autonomy requires their approval, precisely the dynamic that creates fertile ground for toxic interactions. This doesn't mean becoming secretive or refusing to share your thought process with those who genuinely care about understanding you. Rather, it means recognizing the difference between sharing your reasoning as an act of connection with trusted individuals versus feeling obligated to defend your choices to those who have demonstrated patterns of undermining you. When you stop explaining yourself to people who use your explanations as ammunition, you reclaim significant personal power and close a major avenue through which toxicity enters your life. 12. The power of the silent stare. According to Epictetus, the wise person observes more than they speak. In our culture of constant communication, we often underestimate the power of controlled silence, particularly when facing someone intent on provoking an emotional reaction. The silent stare, a calm, steady, and largely expressionless gaze, communicates volumes without risking the vulnerability of words that might be twisted, dismissed, or used against you. It says simply, "I see what you're doing, I'm fully present, but I am choosing not to engage with this behavior." This technique is particularly effective because it denies toxic individuals the emotional response they're seeking while forcing them to sit with the awkwardness they've created. Most provocative behavior is designed to elicit either defensive explanation or emotional outburst, both of which validate the provocateur's power to affect you. The silent stare offers neither satisfaction. To practice this effectively, maintain relaxed eye contact without hostility or challenge. Your expression should be neutral, perhaps with the slightest hint of curious observation. Your body language should remain open rather than crossed or defensive. The message is not aggression, but calm assessment and boundary setting. The power of this approach lies in its unexpected nature. Most social interactions follow predictable scripts. Someone makes a cutting remark, you defend yourself or counterattack. When you break this pattern with composed silence, you create cognitive dissonance that often leads the other person to backtrack, moderate their approach, or reveal more clearly their provocative intentions. This silence visually destabilizes those seeking conflict, as they suddenly find themselves without the anticipated roadmap for the interaction. In the space created, they often reveal more about their true intentions than any verbal questioning could extract. 13. Walk with your head held high. Marcus Aurelius practiced silent dignity as both an emperor and a philosopher. He understood that physical bearing communicates internal state, and that the relationship works in both directions. How you carry yourself not only reflects, but can actually generate your sense of self-worth. When you walk as someone who knows their value, head up, shoulders back, gaze forward, pace unhurried, the comments and judgments of others lose their power to diminish you. This isn't about arrogance or performative confidence. It's about physically embodying self-respect. Your body carries your sense of identity. Maintain it upright, and your self-esteem naturally follows. This physiological reality creates a powerful tool for managing toxic encounters. Before entering situations where you anticipate difficult interactions, take a moment to adjust your posture. Feel your feet firmly planted on the ground, lengthen your spine, and relax your shoulders away from your ears. This postural adjustment creates both an internal shift in how you experience yourself and an external shift in how others perceive and respond to you. Toxic individuals instinctively target those who physically broadcast insecurity or approval-seeking. When your body communicates quiet self-assurance, you become a less appealing target. Practice this embodied confidence during neutral activities until it becomes natural. Notice how differently people respond to you when you move through the world as someone who occupies space with quiet entitlement rather than apologetic minimization. 14. Use silence as a response. Not every attack deserves a response. In fact, the most powerful statement you can sometimes make is offering no statement at all. While our instinct often drives us to defend, explain, or counterattack when faced with toxic behavior, strategic silence creates space for something remarkable to happen. The other person must confront their own words hanging in the air without your engagement to validate or distract from them. Seneca noted that silence is often more effective than any argument. When someone makes a caustic remark and you respond with calm silence, you force them to sit with the echo of their own toxicity. Without your reaction to focus on, they must face the impact and implications of their own behavior. This doesn't mean appearing hurt or shocked into speechlessness. Rather, it means maintaining neutral, mild interest in the face of provocation, as if you're briefly considering whether the comment merits any of your energy and concluding that it doesn't. Ignoring provocations with serenity is like cutting off the fuel supply to a fire. Without your emotional oxygen, the flame of conflict cannot sustain itself. The person must either escalate to increasingly inappropriate behavior, revealing their true intentions, or shift to more reasonable interaction. This approach requires substantial self-control and comfort with conversational pauses. Practice taking a slow breath when you feel the urge to immediately respond to provocation. Ask yourself, does this actually require my energy or explanation? Often, you'll find the answer is no. 15. Maintain distance from those who harm you. Association is a choice, not a prison sentence. Yet many of us remain in prolonged contact with individuals who consistently undermine our well-being because of misplaced loyalty, family obligation, workplace necessity, or simply habit. Epictetus teaches, if something disturbs your peace, distance yourself without drama. This isn't about grand pronouncements or relationship ultimatums. It's about the quiet, steady creation of space between yourself and sources of toxicity. This distance might be physical, changing seats in a meeting, positioning yourself elsewhere at family gatherings, or limiting one-on-one time. It might be conversational, redirecting discussions away from triggering topics, limiting personal disclosures, or keeping interactions brief and surface level. It might be emotional, mentally stepping back from taking the person's words personally or investing in their approval. The key is creating this distance without theatrics or accusations, which only create new openings for toxic engagement. Instead, simply become gradually less available, responsive, and engaged. When toxic people no longer receive the emotional payoff they seek from interacting with you, they typically redirect their attention elsewhere. Creating space generates clarity and often reveals who truly respects you. Those who notice your distance and respond by modifying their behavior to be more respectful demonstrate some capacity for growth. Those who react with increased attempts to provoke, control, or make you feel guilty simply confirm the wisdom of your decision to create boundaries. Remember that distance isn't always permanent. Sometimes the space you create allows both parties to reset patterns and eventually rebuild on healthier terms. Other times, the distance becomes a necessary, permanent feature of the relationship. Trust your experience and the evidence of how interactions affect your well-being. The 10 strategies we've explored represent a comprehensive approach to dealing with toxic individuals, not by changing their behavior, which lies outside your control, but by transforming your response to it. This internal shift from reactivity to conscious choice is the true awakening of your personal authority. When you stop explaining your choices, harness the power of the silent stare, walk with dignity, use strategic silence, and maintain necessary distance, you create a fortress of self-possession that toxic behavior cannot penetrate. You demonstrate through action rather than argument that your emotional state is yours to determine, not a prize to be claimed through manipulation or provocation. This awakening doesn't happen overnight. Like any profound change, it develops through consistent practice and gentle self-correction when you temporarily slip into old patterns. Be patient with yourself as you implement these approaches, celebrating small victories and learning from moments when toxicity still manages to affect you. The ultimate goal isn't perfect immunity to difficult people. Such a state might render you equally immune to authentic connection. Rather, the aim is discernment, the wisdom to recognize toxic dynamics quickly, the tools to protect yourself effectively, and the clarity to invest your precious energy where it contributes to your growth rather than your diminishment. As you practice these principles, you'll likely discover something surprising. The less reactive you become to toxic behavior, the less you encounter it. This occurs partly because your new responses make you a less rewarding target, and partly because your heightened awareness helps you avoid situations and relationships where toxicity thrives. What emerges is a life not defined by the avoidance of difficulty, but characterized by the cultivation of peace. A state achieved not through controlling others, but through mastering yourself. Which of these strategies do you think will be most useful in your daily life? Your story could help others who are going through similar situations. Leave your answer in the comments and share this video with someone who needs protection from toxic people. Together, we can build a more conscious and emotionally intelligent community. Subscribe for more content on practical philosophy, Stoicism, and personal development.